Dune, written by Jon Spaihts, Roth, and Denis Villeneuve, who also directed the film, is a film that everyone should see on the biggest screen they possibly can. Based on what is often considered to be the greatest science fiction novel of all time, Dune by Frank Herbert follows the story of Paul Atreides, the son and heir of Duke Leto Atreides and his concubine, the Lady Jessica, who has trained her son in the ways of her religious order, the Bene Gesserit, since birth. Duke Leto is commanded by his liege lord, the Emperor of the whole universe, to take over the desert world of Arrakis, otherwise known as Dune, in order to mine the universe's most important resource, the spice melange. While Paul might seem like a regular noble-born son, what lies for him on Arrakis might not only change him, but change the universe forever. Alongside a great ensemble of some of the best actors in the business today, Spaihts, Roth, and Villeneuve are not only able to visually recreate the world that Frank Herbert initially subcreated in his 1962 novel, but they're also able to introduce the overlaying themes that Herbert really wanted to highlight textually. However, a lot of the major themes that feature in Herbert's masterpiece are either mentioned slightly due to the time constraint or are taken out of the studio's fear of cultural backlash, wanting to approach a wider audience. Although Dune is oftentimes bloated with exposition, if you read the book, it still is an amazing film-going experience and is a testament to why we should experience cinema in a theater with the largest screen possible. Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides is at times brilliant in his role as the series' main character, with him being able to switch from a stoic and reflective heir to the Atreides name with strangely prophetic dreams to the often panic-stricken and frenzied prophet that he initially becomes. One of my favorite scenes in the book is also one of my favorite moments from Chalamet, as he, as best as he can, expresses the dread and horror of seeing a billion outcomes of the universe, all from one singular decision he has to make. At times, Chalamet's Paul does feel underwhelming, and not as commanding as Paul is in the book, after his disturbing revelations, which is likely to come in part 2. Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica really holds the emotional core of the film, which felt very true to the characterization in the book up to the point in which the film stops at. She has the command of those around her, but at the same time, she still has the emotional depth and trepidation that mothers have seeing their sons grow up, but it's a million times more intense, as the person that you raised could potentially be the universe's messiah. To round off House Atreides, Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto has very little to do in Dune, and never really gets to establish the close relationship and admiration that Paul has for him, and the love that he has for Paul, just as it is in the books. While yes, Isaac is at times charismatic and noble, the emotional vulnerability the character has with his son is missing, as he seems to focus more on the stoic commander side that Duke Leto has. Jason Momoa also stood out with his warmth and charisma, as it really establishes and builds a great relationship with Paul, and the film would have really benefited if they had more time together on the screen. Stellan Skarsgård is absolutely ruthless as Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him in the second film, where he has more room to grow with his political machinations and absolutely revolting way of life. As Denis Villeneuve has done in the past with adapting another beloved property with Blade Runner 2049, he is able to build the universe that both fans of the series and newcomers alike can marvel at on the big screen. Going from the abundance of water on the Atreides homeworld of Caladan to the stark and clean sand dunes of Arrakis, the audience is shocked into the story right from the outset. In addition to some of the most beautiful landscapes and photography I've ever seen on an IMAX screen, the visual effects team should win all of the awards, as they are able to take scenes, devices, vehicles, and of course, the sandworms right from the page, once a feat that was often thought to be unfilmable. 20 years ago in 2001, I saw The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring in theaters, knowing absolutely nothing of the fantasy epic, and it changed my life completely. And after hearing about Dune for so many years and how it's been compared to J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and its scope, world building, and influence on the science fiction genre, I wanted to see what it was like for those that read the books before the Jackson trilogy had come out, and part of me wishes I hadn't. What distinguishes Jackson's Fellowship and Villeneuve's Dune is its level of fidelity to the books in wanting to provide as much context in order to educate newcomers rather than showing them. I absolutely adore all of the details in this film, but the script felt bloated and being too closely related to the book. Dune feels like it needs to educate the audience rather than immerse them into the world. Jumping to planet and explaining what the Navigation Guild is rather than just featuring them can be a lot for some viewers, and having that does encumber the film a little bit. When watching The Fellowship for the first time, you're not aware of the thousands of years of events that led up to the War of the Ring, or the story of Beren and Luthien. But as you see them and as you hear them within the story, without any explanation, it makes you want to look those stories up. You want to know who took part in those events, why they happened, and how they ultimately relate to the story. By featuring and not educating, you make the audience hunger for more, which is why I'm still reading Tolkien's books and watching the Jackson trilogy 20 years later. This adaptation of Dune is probably one of the most faithful adaptations of a book that I know of. The level of world building that Jon Spaihts, Eric Roth, and Denis Villeneuve need to do for newcomers to the story makes the film start off slow and a bit overloaded with information. It's about an hour into the film before the real themes and focus of the story and character arcs really ascend from the sand. In addition to this, the catering to newcomers with certain preconceived notions also really brings down the film's major themes to a smaller scope.
My mind, I can't control it. What did you see? There's a crusade.
The universe that Frank Herbert created has an amalgamation of our world's major religious, socio-political, and ecological issues that are constantly at the center of the story. These are represented by MENA, Middle Eastern and North African traditions and cultures, and throughout this adaptation, the physical influences are often lost or very small. While yes, there are uses of phrases like Lisan al-Gaib, Mahdi, and Shai-hulud, which all have their roots in Arabic, and the clothing MENA people wear, it is often seen as as stark as the desert when it comes to other terms and concepts like the use of jihad and actual physical representation. As far as I can tell, there's very little, if not any, physical representation amongst the background Fremen, and no representation at all amongst the Fremen leaders, Zendaya as Chani and Javier Bardem as Stilgar. While the lack of representation looks like it is a whitewashed story, with Paul being the lead and being a white savior, Dune is not a story about white saviors, and that will be evident when the second film comes out. Paul is inspired by T.e Lawrence, more commonly known as Lawrence of Arabia, an Englishman that, although had a penchant for MENA people, their languages and traditions, he ultimately participated in, and some argue aided in the carving up of the Middle East, leading to its resource-based issues that it has today. The Imperium, House Harkonnen, and to some extent House Atreides are our world's imperialist colonizers, as they try to stamp their rule on the planet Arrakis and its people so they can in turn rule the universe with their control over the universe's most valuable resource. The Imperium and the Harkonnens refuse to deal with the native population, the Fremen, so much so they try to exterminate them. Knowing that they can be valuable in retaining peace and eventually will gain him untold wealth, Duke Leto tries to ally with them. When his plans descend into chaos and Jessica and Paul are left alone to die in the desert, they continue his plans and will soon turn their personal strife into the universe's tragedy. Despite a lot of exposition, not enough MENA representation, and a slight taste of Herbert's own thematic spice, Denis Villeneuve's Dune
is a masterful work of art that allows both hardcore fans and newcomers to escape to a universe they have never seen before.